Welcome back to my deep dive on Taylor Parker. So, in August of 2019, Taylor pulled another character off the shelf. She used that same catfishing like VoIP app to message Wade, pretending to be her father, Mark Morton. And her father was telling Wade that they had been in this wreck and that his bush hog was totaled. And another invented family friend named Jace showed up to help with the aftermath of the wreck. It was during this like fake towing operation that Taylor told Wade through Mark, I know it's confusing, that a winch cable had snapped and slammed into her stomach, hurting the babies. So that was actually the first mention of a pregnancy, apparently. Shortly after that, she made it very clear and told Wade that she was pregnant, that she'd already been to the doctor, and that she was having twins. Wade was kind of surprised by this. He was cautious. He even privately wondered if this was true or if she was just like trying to trap him. And then of course, not long after that, she told him she had lost the baby probably due to that accident. So then as fall turned to winter, she just kept expanding on her fiction. She said that she was the granddaughter of an oil magnate and the inheritance was coming. It was just a matter of prying it out of her mom, Shauna's hands. Wade's boss at Atlas Roofing, Roger Pate, who is in the documentary, and his wife, Angela, who Taylor kind of like pulled into her orbit. Angela found Taylor unsettling from the very first night. I think Angela could just tell that this girl was kind of like a con man. You know how you can just tell some people are disingenuous or inauthentic? I think that's what Angela was picking up. And I think other people in her orbit were also picking up on kind of like her inconsistencies and just her odd behavior. Her friend Stephanie, who was also featured in the documentary, I think kind of started feeling uneasy and seeing some of the warning signs. And so I think this is when Taylor felt like she had to double down on her lies to like reel people back in and regain control of this narrative that she created. So by the end of 2019, Taylor started thinking bigger. She called a real estate agent named Rusty Lowe at Century 21 in Paris, Texas. She asked him about this property that she and Wade had fallen in love with. It was this gorgeous hunting ground called Pecan Point. It was nestled along the Red River in McCurtain County. We're talking over 1,700 acres for cattle, pecan production, duck, deer, turkey, hog, and dove hunting. This was listed at $4.7 million. Now, Rusty had been in real estate for over 20 years. When Taylor reached out, she told him that she could absolutely afford it because she was the heir to the Blackburn syrup fortune, not gas or oil or salt. This time it was syrup. Taylor ultimately offered $3.5 million with $200,000 down in earnest money. Wade was super excited about this property. This was exactly his dream. They were so excited. They announced their plans to their family with these little cards that had pecans stuck to the front of them. And then they tacked on a few more properties, bringing the grand total that they wanted to buy through Rusty to a cool $20 million. And of course, the second it came time to actually prove that the money existed, it all started to unravel. Taylor said a $7 million wire transfer was coming from the Blackburn syrup inheritance. That never came. So then she pivoted to the oil and gas inheritance, and that money never showed up either. She couldn't verify funds anywhere. So she told Rusty that her Uncle Butch, this supposed multi-million dollar landowner, would pay for the properties and that she would just pay him back. In the meantime, she handed Rusty two separate checks for $150,000 each, and then called him later that same day to ask for them back, saying that her bank preferred it to be wired instead. But obviously that money never came either. So then Taylor then produced lease paperwork, supposedly from her oil and gas inheritance. Well, Rusty had a land ownership specialist like in his office. And so he had him look it over, and they both immediately realized that these documents were falsified. So then Rusty starts digging into the email correspondence because Taylor had been trying to verify her funds through a representative from Shell Western Global named Shelly Links. And as I pointed out in a recent video, her email address was shellylinks.westernglobal@aol.com. For someone allegedly working at a global energy company, having an AOL.com email address should have been your first clue. But and we're talking, this is 2020, okay? We're not talking like, oh, 2010. Like, this is actually pretty recent. But when Rusty started trying to independently contact the names in the banking correspondence, Taylor fired off a text to Rusty that said, quote, "After talking to my dad and attorney, whom have bought land for more than this, it was stated to me the seller can ask, but you don't have to ask them to verify what we have in bank. Wade and myself both weren't okay with him calling for all that. My Uncle Butch is a multi-million-dollar landowner, and he says he has asked and been denied." End quote. And then right on cue, Rusty got an email from Shelly saying, "Banking information is completely confidential. The buyers were not under the assumption that a verification letter was required until you requested it in your office. I am sending this verification form since I will be providing funds. Funds and where they come from is not of importance as long as the seller is paid from my understanding. The clients are not okay with the seller calling their bank and are firm on their decision in that matter." So that all collapsed in April of 2020. And can you imagine what Taylor would have done if she had access to ChatGPT like these days? She would have been an even bigger monster, I'm sure.